Hello and welcome to Maggie Mumbles. My name is Maggie, and on this channel I mumble about the things that are interesting to me and things that might be interesting to you too. I usually talk about witchcraft, spirituality, and personal development type topics, things that are controversial, things that I'm noticing, my observations. So again, if that is interesting to you, then I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to this channel and like the video and hit the bell for notifications so that you don't miss a video. Now we are in the middle of my reaction to past videos I did for something I called the Enwitching Challenge. I talked about a bunch of different topics that were maybe something that new witches hadn't considered in their practice yet, and also things that witches who'd been practicing for a long time might not have considered yet either. But I noticed that some of my beliefs have changed since then, and so I just wanted to kind of talk about how those beliefs had changed and maybe inspire others to reflect on their own beliefs and how things change over the years. So we are, like I said, in the middle of this Enwitching Challenge, and this is actually the third part of 4 videos for the Healthy Skepticism presentation. So we've already talked about what it means to be skeptical and how that can be beneficial to your witchcraft practice, and we've also talked about the importance of being aware of mental illness in witchy spaces, whether that's your own mental health or someone else who's in part of your community, and things that you can do to help yourself and others. That was part 1, and part 2, like I said, this is part 3, and in this lesson, or this part, I guess, we are talking about conspiracy theories in general. I kind of go off on a tangent, so I'm just gonna pass it over to Maggie from the past reacting to Maggie from even further back, and without further ado, here she is. I think it's really important to determine what is your reality, what is your line between reality, sanity, and insanity. And you have to draw this line. I believe everyone needs to have a boundary line for what they consider to be sane, and then agree that everything beyond that line will not be considered sane. Because the danger of believing everything and everyone is that you never find out what you yourself believe in and what you consider to be part of your reality. So figure out what raises red flags for you. Where do you start to feel that's a little bit too far? I don't feel comfortable with that. If you don't have this line, you can get hurt because you follow someone blindly and end up getting hurt. You can become disillusioned with your witchcraft practice and you end up leaving it altogether, even if it's something that was really a beautiful thing to have in your life. So just figure out where that line is. Where does it stop? Is it at conspiracy theories? Is that where your line's drawn? Is it at apocalyptic prophecies? Is it at aliens? What point causes your hackles to rise, your doubts to surface, your disbelief starts to set in? And everybody has their own line, and it's okay if your line doesn't match up with someone else's. It's totally okay, because you need to be comfortable with what your line is at. So it's definitely not going to be the same for everybody, but it's super important for you to have that line, because that's how you can protect yourself from other people imposing their reality onto you. Don't let anyone bully you into validating their own sanity or lack thereof. So if you meet someone that claims something that is beyond your own line of sanity, there is no reason to judge their belief, because they have their own reality, they have their own line. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they didn't do this exercise and draw a line. But whatever it is, they have this reality that they are living in. And if it's beyond your line of sanity, there's no reason to judge them. But as long as they're not hurting anyone. If their beliefs are hurting someone, that's when you want to intervene, or at least if you don't feel comfortable intervening, removing yourself from that situation. But call in help if the delusions of someone else is starting to impact people in a negative way. So certain things that I have encountered are, I won't go into specifics, but it might be a red flag if someone is trying to gain a following and they expect to be treated differently or better because of their belief. Again, I'm not going to go into specifics, but if they expect special treatment or better treatment than other people, and they're trying to
get a following of people to believe in them, then that's something that you might want to consider a red flag. If someone is expressing that they are all you need in a teacher, maybe if it's someone that is trying to mentor you and they are saying that they're the only person that you need to listen to, there's no reason to explore other teachers because they have everything that you could possibly need, then that's probably a red flag, because there's so many different paths. There's no reason to just follow one teacher. Definitely explore lots of different sources of information. If you find out that a story that someone is telling you about their reality came from a video game or a movie or a book, you probably want to exercise caution around them. If they are using their belief to manipulate you or other people, or are threatening to harm themselves or someone else if you don't respond to them in a certain way, that's dangerous behavior. It's easier than ever to deceive people because of the internet. We can interact with people that we wouldn't have access to. In some ways, this is a blessing, because, I mean, look at how many people that I can talk to because of the internet. I feel like I'm doing a good thing, though. I'm not trying to manipulate you. But it's easier than ever to be deceived by someone on the internet, because the people can represent themselves in any way. They can represent themselves as an entirely different person with pictures of someone else, a different age or a different gender or anything. And so you just have to be really careful and just pay attention to the signs and pay attention to your intuition. If your gut is telling you that something is not quite right, then you definitely need to pay attention to that.
All right, so I'm going to start at the beginning of what I was talking about there, which was drawing this boundary line. And I still think that that is important. I kind of grouped conspiracy theories into one group, but I think people believe in like certain things in conspiracy theories, but maybe not every single one. So figuring out like which conspiracy theory it draws a line. So because of that, I wanted to show you this conspiracy theory chart that somebody made, Abby Richards, and she has a TikTok down here, Instagram, a Twitter, and I will link those below this video because this is a great resource. I'm going to make it a bit bigger so I can read it. Hopefully you can read it. The purpose of this funnel, pyramid, chart, triangle thing, it's not like every conspiracy that ever existed, but these are common things that people believe in. And I might do a video on this because this is something, this is really where, this is my like zone of genius, is like, I love talking about this stuff. I think finding a line of what things you believe in. And this is a good chart to help you figure out where to place that line. This bottom portion, this is things that actually happened within this green triangle. Operation Mockingbird was a thing. COINTELPRO, Big Tobacco lied about cancer. Nairo testimony. Tuskegee, that was real. FBI lied about John Lennon. MK Ultra and the Bohemian Club. These are all real things. That's a speculation line. So we have questions here. And actually this needs to be updated because Free Britney is a thing that happened and it needs to go down here in things that actually happened. So this blue trapezoid has things that are a little bit questionable. There are things within there that are actually things that happened. Free Britney is a good example of that. Denver International Airport, Epstein didn't kill himself, Roswell, Marilyn Monroe, UFOs, Princess Diana, Area 51, JFK assassination. These are things that there's some evidence that something weird is happening here. They're kind of fun things to speculate about, but you're not really causing any harm by believing in these. If we move up to this blue trapezoid, this says unequivocally false, but mostly harmless. So these are like, there's pretty much no evidence of any of these things, but it's still fun. Nobody's getting hurt if you believe in Bigfoot. Nobody's getting hurt if you believe in the Loch Ness Monster or any of the other cryptids. Alien abductions, not very harmful belief system. Greta Thunberg is a time traveler. Nobody's hurting if you believe that. Crop circles. The Beatles never existed. Avril Lavigne replaced. Elvis lives. Prince Charles is a vampire. Well, now he's king, so King Charles. This needs to be updated. Aliens built Stonehenge, the stuff about Mattress Firm. So this is leaving reality, harmless, generally harmless beliefs. Going up into dangerous to yourself and to others in this yellow trapezoid: anti-vaxxers, jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams, global warming hoax, Finland doesn't exist, soy boys, COVID-19 was made in a lab, 5G, government-made diseases, essential oils cure all illnesses, chemtrails, dinosaurs didn't exist. So there is a little bit more danger to yourself and others through believing these things because of the science denial factor and the potential harm involved with them. And then we get to the anti-Semitic point of no return. And really, this is where a lot of conspiracy theories exist. A lot of it stems from anti-Semitism. And so this trapezoid says that the world is ruled by supreme shadow elites. Once you believe one, you usually believe most. It's time to get help. They're so big. The conspiracy theory here is just so big that so many people would have to be involved in order to make it true, that it's just the delusions here are harmful. So this is where things like QAnon exist. And again, QAnon, like I said before, is like a big tent conspiracy theory where pretty much all of these other things fit inside of QAnon somehow. Deep State is part of QAnon, George Soros is part of QAnon, Follow the White Rabbit is part of QAnon. There's Illuminati, they don't call it that, but they call it the Deep State. Subliminal messages from ruling class on children's TV. Oh, see, like the hocus pocus thing, that they're casting spells through the TV.
Gooch says there's a spiritual war being waged against homes in America, and Hollywood is part of the problem. And right now, one film in particular.
The whole movie is based on witches harvesting children for blood sacrifices.
That fits in here. Moon landing was faked. That would have to be so huge. Sandy Hook was fake, which is terrible and tragic. Cultural Marxism, white genocide, Elders of Zion, celebs moisturize with children's foreskins, New World Order, satanic cult panic, Nazis on the moon, adrenochrome, that's part of QAnon, Bill Gates microchipping, flat earth, Holocaust denial, reptilian overlords, Wayfair, the Mars slave colony Pizzagate was like the precursor to QAnon, Obama birth certificate was faked, Hollow Earth, Antifa International starting the wildfires. Oh my gosh, do you guys remember that one? This is a good resource for where you might want to draw your line on your beliefs. And it's probably, like, if you really want to, I would say that anything below the science denial is, like this says, it's mostly harmless. Everything below there is basically harmless. And then going above that, if you already have some of these beliefs, it might be good to look into them. I'll put a link to where you can look at this more closely if you're interested, so check the description. Okay, so I got a little bit off topic, I feel like. Where was I? Oh, where you draw the line. So I think that's important to know where your line is, and like I said, probably the green, the blue, and the pink would be like the highest I would go on that triangle, on that chart. Knowing the red flags for other people, and knowing your boundaries of how to keep yourself safe if other people's beliefs are past yours, and if they're harming you, being able to help them if it's safe for you and avoid them if it's unsafe for you. And I did mention in there, if someone else approaches you with their beliefs and it's beyond your line of sanity, you don't need to judge them. And I wanted to make it clear the part about as long as it's not harming other people, because a lot of these things that go above that pink trapezoid, they do harm other people. That's when you can judge them. I give you permission, I guess. All right, so let's see what comes next in this video. This video is very long. I have a lot of things to say. This video came before a lot of things that I know now, so I just have a lot to add. And I hope you don't mind this extra long video. The next one is about respect. So let's go ahead and see what I have to say about respect. Respecting yourself and others.
So now I'm going to talk about respecting that line, respecting yourself and respecting others. Respecting yourself first is really important. A belief is something that is believed. It is an opinion or a conviction. So it is not a fact. A belief is not a fact, is something that we need to remember. But I choose to believe what I have experienced for myself. And I also choose to believe in the things and the experiences of people who I trust and respect, because they have proven to be trustworthy and worthy of respect. So for the most part, my life has been a series of good, safe experiences. Obviously, we all have things that happen in our lives, but I look at my life and I see a series of good, safe things happening throughout it. And this is partly because when I was a kid, I had wonderful parents and grandparents and family members who set boundaries for me to keep me safe. We all respected those boundaries. And then this helped me to grow up into a person who was able to set those boundaries for myself and continue to respect those boundaries. And that's the most important part. When you set this boundary, you need to remember to respect the boundary and not let it give at all. I don't expect everyone to believe exactly as I believe. And in fact, I know there are lots of people who I surround myself with who do not believe exactly as I believe. I would hope that others wouldn't expect me to believe exactly as they believe. And if I encounter someone who does expect me to follow their belief exactly, then I know that that's not a person that needs to be in my life. So I recognize and respect that other people have different experiences than I have had, and they live in a different reality than I do. But when their reality crosses my boundary, when they try to impose their views on me, and when they become combative if I disagree, they lose my respect. And my respect for their reality shuts off as well. And if necessary, I choose to remove them from my life and from my environment. I have chosen to live my life with this idea of respecting myself and my boundaries in order to keep myself safe and protected. So I hope that you all set these boundaries for yourself, respect these boundaries and yourself first above everyone else before you respect the realities of other people, because your safety is more important than the realities or even the delusions of another person. So keep your priorities straight and remember that your boundaries are important and you need to respect them.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. I think I did a good job with that. Respect your boundaries. Figure out where your boundaries are. One thing I would add is I was talking about my experience of having grown up in a household. My childhood showed me good boundaries, and so I was able to develop, like I can now set boundaries easily because that was modeled to me as a kid and a young adult. If you did not grow up the same way that I did and you didn't have parents who modeled good boundaries or who protected you and kept you safe from dangerous things, whether that's like physical dangers or mental dangers, like if you grew up in a cult or a high demand religion or anything like that, there's a learning curve for figuring out how to set boundaries. And it's harder when you're an adult. Everything's harder when you're an adult. Learning anything is harder when you're an adult than it is when you're a kid. You're so much more malleable as a child, and you're so much more impressionable as a child. So just know that it might be harder to learn how to set boundaries if you haven't learned that, and that hasn't been modeled to you throughout your life. So even if it is more challenging, just know that it is possible and that you can learn how to set boundaries.
So I talked a little bit about this before, but the internet can be a very dangerous place. So it is a blessing and a curse because of the internet, we can access information that our ancestors would never have dreamed of having access to, and that's amazing. So the internet is a wonderful place, but it's also a curse. It's a little bit like the imagination. Anything is possible if you have the right combination of search terms. You can find things that back up any belief, any conviction, any opinion if you search the right terms. But just because you read it on the internet does not mean it's real. That's a cliche, and it's like a punchline of a 1,000 jokes, but it's true. Just because you read it on the internet doesn't mean that it is true. You can be anything and anyone you want on the internet. If you've scrolled through Instagram and seen the perfect images of internet celebrities, then you know this to be true. This is a result of Western culture that dictates to us from every direction, in every way that they can, that we must be individuals, that we must be completely unique. So just remember to keep yourself grounded in the reality of your life. What is your life? And to keep yourself grounded in this reality, it's really important to be grateful for your reality. So finding gratitude in what your life looks like that will keep you grounded in what your life is. And then the other part of the internet that's really a little bit dangerous, it can be dangerous if you're not grounded in reality. The internet is full of quizzes and listicles, and these prey on our need to be different from everyone else. So they're really fun to do, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't take fun quizzes that tell us what dragon we are or whatever. They prey on our wants and needs to be different. They prey on our culture telling us that we have to be individual. And no matter where you fall on the mental health spectrum, it is possible to fall victim of the delusions and become lost in the unreality of the internet. And the internet wants to give you the tools to pull away from the mundane. The internet wants you to be sucked in and stuck, because that's the market of the internet, is the longer you spend on it, the more money it makes. So it wants to pull you away from the monotony of your day-to-day life, and it wants to make you feel special. It feeds on your insecurities and your natural desires, and it muddles that line between what is role-playing and what is reality. And again, there's this anonymity of the internet, which gives nefarious and delusional people the ability to freely say the things that they would never say to your face, and it gives these people access to people they wouldn't normally be able to reach outside of the internet. So as long as you use good judgment and you don't fall prey to the traps of delusions, fact check your sources, check the information that you uncover, and you should be fine. The internet is a wonderful place to find information. It is beautiful. You just have to keep your wits about you and you'll be fine.
Something I would add is that when it comes to researching spiritual things, you can't really fact check it in the same way that you can check like scientific facts. Like, you can look on the internet and check how far it is from the Earth to the sun. You can find a lot of different responses, because if you believe in flat Earth, then it's not very far. But we don't believe in flat Earth because that is a harmful anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that we learned here. Flat Earth. Making sure that we are using sources that are reputable to answer that question. When it comes to spiritual practices, fact-checking isn't really about figuring out what's right or wrong. I think what's more important is having multiple sources and trusting your personal experience, because we all experience spiritual things differently, or at least in order to describe our spiritual experience, we use words that might accurately describe what we experienced, but might be interpreted differently from other people, so it would appear different. I just think that that's important, because you can't really fact check spirituality in the same way that you would research like scientific facts. And so in that case, it's more about diversifying sources, following more than one person on social media, not only reading books by one person. So that's the end of it. There is a video of wrapping everything up, so I'll go ahead and do that, because I think I give some resources in the final section of this. And if you would like to see that last part of this series, then make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so that you are notified when that video comes out. Should be very soon, part 4. Thank you so much for sticking with me till the end of part 3 in this Healthy Skepticism series. I hope that you have enjoyed it, and if you have, then please give this video a thumbs up and tell me about the things that you learned in the comments. I will see you next time.